All right.
All right, there we go.
Volume up. Welcome to Conversion Chronicles, everybody. This is episode 6, Prem. Isn't that exciting?
It's 6.
It went fast. Today's episode, we're extremely excited. We have Ryan Reep here, who is the owner of our very special Flemington Chick-Fil-A. So we will be talking about the principles of starting a successful franchise. First, let's recap a little bit about what we talked about for episode 5.
But before that, you want to do some introductions?
Right. Yes. So my name is Desiree Halleck. I am the owner of Clarence Services, which is a digital marketing agency. I started my career in neuroscience a long time ago, and I did a complete 180 and ended up in marketing. And so I have a very data-driven, analytical approach to marketing, which makes us unique at Clarent. And we are best known right now for creating a webinar experience with our Webinar B service. And so if you are a business owner who wants to gain more clients or communicate with your current clients using webinars, we will take the headaches out of all the logistics and the promotions of creating a webinar, and we will take care of all of that for you, and all you do is show up on the day of your webinar and present. So how about you, Prem? Tell me a little bit.
Thank you, Desiree, for that introduction. So as Desiree said, my name is Prem Kumar. I own a boutique consulting firm called Efficace Consulting, and I primarily work with small businesses looking at their strategic plan and how we can improve upon it, not only on the bottom line of the revenue generating plan, but also on the implementation side, has it how well you implement your tactical approach to meet your strategic goals. So I work at both ends, and that's why I think Desiree and I make up a good team, because she does all the digital marketing part of it, and the analytics will help me support, I can help them support as to how can they make it a reality, especially converting potential leads into actual clientels. But from a background perspective, I've over 30 years in this business, and I've been doing strategic plan ever since I landed in this country March 10th, 1989, with $250 in my pocket, and I was trying to figure out how to build a career.
Love it.
And I used to live on a budget of $5 a day. Which I extended the $250, but there was a lot of people who helped me out. So I've been strategizing ever since, and it's been a fun part of my career, and I built a corporate entity. But about 6-7 years ago, I started on my own consulting. So I do a lot of consulting with biotech industries, because that's where my background has been in science. I have a master's in science, but I've been in oncology and all urological cancers, both solid tumors as well as hematology. But I've expanded my reach to small business, as I said earlier. So I've been strategizing all my career, and it's a fun thing that I enjoy doing. So awesome. With that, let's catch up on what we did last week.
So actually 2 episodes ago, we were talking about goal setting. And
Yep.
We can set goals all day long, but if you don't have a strategic implementation plan, then you're not going to meet your goals.
That's true.
So episode 5, we went into the strategic planning.
How do you build one?
Exactly.
Yep.
And so some of those components.
We talked about 10 components, I guess.
Yep. The company overview, industry and market overview, market analysis, competitive analysis, SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
We went over a ton of information last session. Setting goals and objectives, strategizing with tactics, creating an implementation plan, making sure you're reviewing all the time and you're analyzing your reports. And then we talked about risk management.
Yep.
And the thought-provoking takeaway for last week's episode was, how good is your strategic plan on a scale from 0 to 10? 1 to 10. I guess it could be 0. There's some there.
That is true.
And then where do you think your level of execution? Because again, you can write down the plan, but how are you going to implement the plan? And so that's kind of what we talked about last time. So with that, let's move on to introducing our very special guest, owner of Chick-Fil-A in Flemington here. And his name is Ryan Reep. And welcome, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually a fun and privilege to have you here, because what we do, as Desiree pointed out, we kind of alternate what we talk about philosophically as to what we, how you approach a business, but we bring in a guest that has already done what we preach, essentially.
Yep.
So as Desiree said, Ryan, welcome. Ryan Reep is the owner operator of the much happening place in Chick-fil-A. In Flemington. He's been doing this successfully over eight plus years. But prior to getting into the ownership and business entity, he was in corporate America. He was with Armstrong World Industries. He's a lean engineer, value stream, part of it in Pennsylvania. He was a project engineer, but more importantly, he was part of the U.S. Navy for almost 4 years. So thank you for your service, because we much appreciate, everybody appreciates the service that everybody that does to keep us where we are, because it's still one of the best, I should see, the best nation to live and grow. So thank you for your service. But before that, he had a number of years, Procter & Gamble. So he's got a pedigree of wealth of experience that had led him to. We'll talk more about how he ended up being a business owner, but this, within the long list of accomplishments, of course, he has a very blessed family, with Valerie, his wife, and 4 kids, and he lives in Flemington, but I guess. In Pittstown.
Pittstown area. Yep.
So he's a native of Hunterdon County, and again, welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
With that said, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the success that you have. So, do you want to start, Des?
Sure. So, Ryan, can you share a bit about your journey as a franchise business owner, and what motivated you to start your franchise?
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Thank you for having me on this show, and feel honored to sit here in such a great company and get to share a little bit of my story. And so I'm gonna take us all the way back to being 11 years old, growing up in Ohio, and it was then that really my entrepreneurial journey started. So when I was 11, as I said, I wanted to start my own thing, and so I started a lawn mowing business, and I'm the oldest of 5 boys, and so my younger brothers were my workforce. So if you can imagine 11, 9, and 7-year-old rolling around the neighborhood in our old bikes, trying to knock on doors and ask for work, we kind of had to prove our mettle with the jobs that no one else wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So we picked up sticks and raked leaves and did all of that work and proved our trustworthiness. And so I think that first summer we had 1 mowing job, and then the next year we had 3, and we grew it. And we did 30 to 35 accounts a week. Wow. By the time I was in high school and all the way through, my youngest brother is 12 years younger than me, and so the business continued to run until he went to college, and at that point we disbanded things. That was my introduction to the entrepreneurial world.
Wait, I hope you sold it instead of disbanding it.
Well, at that point, a lot of the customers, by the point my youngest brother, he was on his own for the last 4 or 5 years, and so at that point we weren't doing a full 30 or 35 accounts, and so there were a couple of long-time customers that actually my dad continued to help support in the last few years of their life, and then the pride and joy of my equipment, my machine was my X-Mark 0-turn mower, and so I confiscated that one to me here in New Jersey, and so that's what I've been using, and that's my hobby, I say, is mowing grass.
Lenny and I fight over ours.
Really?
You wouldn't think so, but they're fun.
It is, yeah.
And they're fast now.
They're fast.
They are, the Z-turns.
There you go. Awesome. All right.
So what key principles or strategies do you attribute to the success of the franchise? Actually, let's back up a bit. So tell us how you started then at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. So obviously that was kind of the introduction to the entrepreneurial journey. I would say at that point, that's where I really learned that I loved wearing a lot of different hats that you get to wear in small business.
Yeah.
You're not really siloed into one aspect of the work, and you get to be involved in a lot of different things. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. But I realized I was good in math, and so that sent me down the track towards mechanical engineering. And I'm really grateful I did that. No regrets in that. Obviously, we can all look back at different parts of our story, our journey, and realize like there are aspects of what we experience that God works together and gives us the experience, the learnings, knowledge that we need to be successful down the road. And so, yeah, mechanical engineering was great for me. I think it taught me, a lot of engineering teaches you how to think and solve problems. And so that was a great resource for me. That opened the door for me to then, as you mentioned, get to serve in the United States Navy. And so I was an instructor at the Nuclear Power School down in Charleston, South Carolina.
Wow.
And so in that schoolhouse, you take all of the sailors that are going to go out and run the nuclear reactors on the submarines and aircraft carriers. And we did the classroom theory-based training for them. And so
that's awesome.
Able to take that technical background, apply that there. That opened the door for me to get my MBA. Because while, yes, I did engineering, I realized I was not a gearhead. I just didn't see the world in that way as some of my colleagues did. And I worked my butt off in school and did well, but like that just wasn't how I was naturally wired. I really enjoyed the people side of things. And so that opened the door for me to get my MBA. And it was while I was in my MBA program that I learned a little bit about the Chick-fil-A franchising opportunity. And that was really intriguing to me because it gave me the opportunity to own my own business, which I shared as something I was very interested in. I kind of always looking for what that potential business ownership opportunity might be. But then the other thing is, as a Chick-fil-A operator, a lot of what I do is being highly invested in and involved in people's lives. And so that people leadership side of things was a big part of my life growing up. I played basketball all the way through high school and college, and then even in the Navy, then begin to be involved in those junior sailors' lives. There was a mentorship role that I got to play through basketball and then through the Navy that I realized I really liked that side of things. And so the Chick-fil-A franchising opportunity is like, this is beautiful. I get to marry like the two passions that I have.
Together.
I get to own my own business, and I have the opportunity to invest in and develop people. This is great. So.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Just a quick question. For when you're starting up a franchise like Chick-fil-A, which has a very good reputation, is it something where you have to save up all this money to start it, or is it like a payment plan? Like how does that work to start something? Because I always thought, oh my God, a franchise. So I grew up in Vancouver in Canada, so I'm Canadian, and the Dunkin' Donuts of Canada is Tim Hortons. I always wanted to own a Tim Hortons just because I loved all the stuff in it. I would probably put myself out of business, but I always thought, but like I could never afford a Tim Hortons because I knew as soon as you put one up on a corner, there's people there.
Yeah.
So the busier a franchise is, like a Starbucks or something, right? The more expensive the initial costs are. So how did you manage that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and one that's typically associated just with franchising in general, but Chick-fil-A specifically. And so I'm actually going to go back to the very beginning of Chick-fil-A to tell a little bit of this story. Because I think what's really neat is that has served as the foundation for what the franchising agreement is to this day. Okay. Obviously, there's a lot more legalese to it now, but the heart of it is similar, or is still established on what it was. And so I go back to our very beginning of Chick-fil-A. We were founded by a gentleman named Truett Cathy. He got into the restaurant business, starting a little tiny restaurant called the Dwarf Grill, and it sat outside the Ford factory and the Delta Airlines hub there in Atlanta, Georgia. And so that was a 24/7 operation that was going on around him, and he was open 24 hours a day as well, serving all those folks coming in and out, through their different shift sequences. And it was actually during, quick aside, that was the point where he recognized, hey, I can't do this 7 days a week. We're going to be closed on Sunday. And so he made that commitment at the very beginning And that's obviously a big part of who we are as Chick-fil-A, that we remain closed on Sunday.
Day of rest.
Yes, day of rest, to worship, to spend time with friends and family. I know our students appreciate it as well, from a school day standpoint. And so there's a commitment there that started way back when Truett entered the restaurant business. Again, he was a very principled man in that. So,
of course.
When he had the Dwarf Grill, he's serving these folks very quickly, right? He had a very small restaurant. He's just serving them across the counter at bar stools, basically. And so he's learning the value of serving them quickly so they can move on, get to their shift, but he can also turn the tables over. Yep. And so he worked on perfecting this chicken sandwich. What is the number one, the original sandwich. Yeah.
Right.
And so he developed that and perfected that. And then it was eventually in 1967 that he opened the very first Chick-fil-A restaurant. Well, fast forward, he keeps building this. He's got a couple Chick-fil-A restaurants now, and he's recognizing that he has his limits, that he can't keep adding on more and more. And so he recognized, hey, I need to duplicate myself, which obviously we can't do, but he did that through identifying, hey, I need to find people that are entrepreneurially minded, that have high character, competency, and just highly, and folks that are highly principled and involved in their communities. And so he basically wrote out on the napkin at the napkin at the kitchen table what that franchising agreement was going to be.
Wow.
And so it was a $5,000 commitment that he asked of that franchisee, and then he was going to front the cost of building it. Now,
wow.
The franchise fees back and things are different in terms of some of the other concepts. But the heart of that arrangement of Truett really looking for the right kind of person to partner with, to be that local owner, to be the entrepreneur within that respective community, to be Truett in that community, was really birthed there at the kitchen table, writing out what that franchise agreement would be.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome. You already talked some of the principles that led to the franchise agreement. As you said, he's very principled, and I'm assuming if you can outline what those principles are from a business perspective, and I'm sure that you do that on a day-to-day basis in your franchise here. So if you can outline some of that, because I think irrespective whether it's a franchise business or not, it's as a business owner, it can be applied to anything. Even if you're not a business owner, it can be applied to your workforce, things like that as an individual. So if you can outline that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of it starts with what is your why? Why is it that you exist? And from that breeds the inspiration and the motivation to inform the day-to-day of what it is that you do. And so, that's something that we spend a lot of time talking about, working on and around as a leadership, as a team at Chick-fil-A Flemington, is to really make sure that we stay focused on what is our why and how is it that plays itself out. Then we can negotiate that from day to day.
And does every location have a different why? Is this your why, or is this the franchise's why?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I would say at a structural standpoint, there is our corporate purpose that is core to who we are as Chick-fil-A, and that really does have a transcendent effect on all of Chick-fil-A. But then, each restaurant is going to have a little bit of their own unique DNA. Some of that comes from me as, or whoever the operator is that's breathing that level of intentional focus to their business.
And I have one of your cards here which says Flemington mission to deliver remarkable, in capital letters, hospitality experiences and develop servant leaders, which is, I guess, is a ultimate principle of being a business owner.
And was that your idea, this little pocket, trifold thing?
Yeah, so what Prim is holding there is our Credo card. And so, that really captures some of those key principles, the structure of what makes our culture what it is.
Yeah.
And so, I did not come up with that idea myself, to be honest. There's a lot of incredible people all throughout Chick-fil-A, and there's no reason to completely reinvent the wheel. So,
absolutely.
I tell my team that I have no false pride in saying that I can be very successful as a Chick-fil-A operator and never have an original idea of my own.
Yes.
Because there's so many great people to learn from.
Absolutely. So that's another good principle for business owners to learn. You don't need
to reinvent the wheel.
Don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Very
You just
true.
get good at something that you do.
Yep.
And delegate as needed.
And learn from other people's mistakes.
Exactly.
The magic is then how is it that you take that and apply that to be able to make sure that that's fully integrated.
And so how did you do it?
Yeah, I mean that's a constant work each and every day, right? That goes through that, and I think going back to what you were talking about in your previous episodes, right? It's like you can have this whole pretty strategic plan or whatever and set goals, but like how is it that it's put into motion. Right? Like that's the work that has to be done. But, I'll come back real quick.
Absolutely.
To our mission statement, and this goes back to the conversation that we had around like. Why I got into this business, how I got into this business. And so, again, that motivation for me of coming into being a Chick-fil-A operator, yes, getting a chance to own my own business, but also the motivation of having the opportunity to impact and develop people. Like I never wanted to lose sight of that. As the years go by, the decades go by, hopefully, that I get to do this, I want to make sure that stays front and center. And so that's why that's baked right into our mission statement that we've had since day one. Yes, we're here to deliver remarkable hospitality experiences. That's a key part of what we do. That's what keeps us in business each and every day. But we also are here to develop servant leaders. And that's kind of that intrinsic motivation of what we get to do each and every day. And what's beautiful about that and what I love is like, not only is that my why that I'm getting to live out each and every day, but I get to see my leaders and leaders at all different levels in my organization get to live that out as well. Like that becomes their mission as well as they invest in others. And that's the beautiful multiplication.
Awesome. Awesome. And one of the other thing I mentioned in his introduction is Ryan is deeply committed to the community, and he's very aware of the needs of the community, and then he has a very giving part of his life that I should acknowledge, being a business owner in Flemington. So, and from a leadership perspective, right? So we talked about the leadership, and then you also talked about how you bring that joy to the customer, and it's part of this, winning hearts every day, which is I love the breakup of the heart.
the breakdown. That's awesome.
And it's if you want to talk a little bit more about it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm going to go back to Truett, our founder, and he's such a wise man. And he goes, he said, when we get better, our customers will demand that we get bigger. And so just that mindset of each and every day, and obviously we are in a highly operational execution kind of business, but like we need to be able to consistently execute in that way. And so like when we do that well each and every day, like then yes, our customers will demand that we get bigger. And so our goal is to win the hearts of our guests, and obviously that takes us doing that on a consistent basis. It's like, what have you done for me recently? What your last experience is your most memorable experience? And so one of our other leaders talks about when we are consistently excellent, then our guests will consistently remark. And so that's what we're going for, tying it back to our mission statement. If we're going to deliver that remarkable hospitality experience, we have to do that on a consistent basis, and that's what it takes to win the hearts of our guests.
Desiree,
so that kind of moves us into, what is your take on the importance of customer satisfaction and loyalty in the success of your franchise?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a huge part of who we are. It's something that we cannot take for granted, right? So we recognize that we have to keep working on that. One of our leaders said a few years ago, and I think it's really true, and I don't know if it's original with him, but you jeopardize your success when you allow arrogance or complacency to creep in. And so, that arrogance can kind of take root when you feel like, we're pretty good and it's us, we've done this, and just, having kind of a false mindset in that. You're not staying humble and hungry. And then complacent, too, is a dangerous place to be in. And again, not hungry in that. And so, guarding against those two is really important in staying at the top. Right.
Yes. And in this day and age with social media and all these platforms online with people explaining usually their negative experiences, right?
Course. Sure.
And that's the first thing they want to do is like when they're upset, they want to spread it to the world.
Right.
Usually when we have just an average experience, we don't want to say anything. When we have an excellent experience, only a fraction of us will actually say something. So you have to be super remarkable for someone to actually share their good experience and give you a 5-star kind of thing, right? Yep. So you got to work extra hard just to get somebody to make that public. So,
and I think that's part of the, winning hearts every day, the principle that he and his team kind of deploys on a daily basis from a customer perspective. So that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Marcus Buckingham is talking a lot about that now in terms of, and so he's associated with Strengths Finders and things. And so he's been talking a lot about how important it is to make that exponential improvement. It's not just moving people from a 1 to a 2 or 2s to 3s or 3s to 4s, but that jump from 4 to 5 is an exponential jump. Like that's what it is that makes somebody remark. But what it is you are evoking in them an emotion because they love something about that experience. That's what takes somebody from just going, I had an average experience, I don't feel like telling anybody, to like, wow, that was amazing. I can't wait to tell somebody.
Yes. Yeah. And do you have any technology implemented in the business, like a net promoter score or something that you are analyzing your not only the way your customers feel about an experience, but also the way your employees feel? Like, do you have anything implemented like that, like a system?
And I'm sure you both would love the data analytics that we have access to. And again, that's the beautiful thing about what I get to do is like, I'm in business for myself, but I'm not in business by myself. And that's the blessing that I get to have in being part of such a big franchise, and just with a lot of the resources and the support that's available is like, I'm not trying to do all of this completely on my own. And so, we have access to a lot of data, which is great. And so obviously, there are those that are, extrapolating that, looking at that as a chain, but I get a chance to dive into that, those analytics for us locally. So we're looking a lot at, what our guests are saying to us through the different, vehicles that we have there. And right now we're actually live right now on our team member satisfaction survey. And so we listen to that very carefully as well, because we truly believe that cared for people care.
Yes.
And so if we're going to win the hearts of our guests, it starts with winning the hearts of our team.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
happy employees or happy clients or customers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Desiree, to your point about analytics, I had the opportunity to sit down with him just to see how the operations work. And to his remarks, he's got this concept of analyzing each part of the business on a regular basis. And they as a team evaluate as they do on every shift, if I'm not mistaken, to analyze how the previous shift did, what the learnings are. And it's very transparent about it, and in a very in a constructional way that, from an execution perspective, everybody learns from it, and it's not a derogatory comment or somebody tries to put it down. So every concept that he talked about building people up, it's been practiced on
That's amazing. So can you give an example, like a real life example of where maybe you saw some of the analytics dipping a little bit in some section of the operations where you got the team together and it's like, listen, we got to fix this? Like, can you give an example of?
I can give a little bit of an example that I think what is powerful about it, it's very recent, is that, it wasn't even me, it was one of my leaders getting to have a breakthrough moment.
Awesome.
And that was really cool. And so this young woman that's been part of my team for several years, carries a significant level of responsibility in the business. She recognized that our performance was not where it needed to be in this particular area of the business, and her personality and just where she's at right now, she would typically take that on and like, okay, she's going to muscle it through and fix this problem. Mm-hmm. She's going to take it over and drive it to improvement. And no doubt she could definitely do that. But she had this like breakthrough moment of like, I could do that, or I can figure out how to work through the team and apply some of the principles that you're talking about from analytics, and I'll get to that in a second, but like use some of these principles and help work through the team to deliver the results.
Yeah.
It might take a little longer. It might be, we might have a few more failures along the way than if she just jumped in and took control of it.
Yeah.
But like in the long run, it's going to be more sustainable.
It's like teach them to fish, don't just give them the fish, right?
Yeah. And so it's just so rewarding for me, again, talking about this mission of developing servant leaders, is for her to have that breakthrough moment and be able to see that and now be going through that journey of getting to
awesome.
apply that.
I love the term servant leaders because it talks a lot about, or defines actually how leadership should be on a servitude basis, because that's what leaders are supposed to be doing. But I know we have, this is a short interview, so as we close out this discussion, and your principles that very valid, what advice would you give to somebody starting off new, or an existing entrepreneur, or in a person in general?
I think it goes back to some of the things that we talked about your why, being really clear about what your why is, and keep reinforcing that. And I know I'm sitting here with some high level folks that think very clearly about marketing. Like our job as CEOs is to be the chief reminding officers in a lot of ways, right? And so you say somebody needs to hear something, see something, engage with something 7 times in order for it to stick. And again, you guys will probably correct me on that. It probably needs to be more, but it's like
kids at 70 times, 7,000 times. Sorry.
No, you're right. And so like, I think that's something that as leaders, we have to be reminded of, like it's okay and know it's right to continue to remind us around why it is that we do what we do. And sometimes you feel like a broken record in that, but like, again, that needs to be reminded. So just being really clear about what that is, being intentional about that. So like that cultural framework, that we've talked about, like, yes, our corporate purpose, but our Flemington mission, even our Flemington values, the behaviors that we want to see exhibited as a team, throughout this journey. We've spent all of this last year, and guess what? We're going to continue this year, just continuing to reinforce that framework, that cultural framework of who we are and why we exist. So that'd be my encouragement is, just got to stay focused on that why.
And choose team members that share that why.
Share that why. Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I know we are running out of time. Is there anything that you want to share other than what we just spoke about from either business or personally, or about yourself, or that would be valuable to?
Sure. Yeah, I think you mentioned just a moment ago about servant leadership, right? And the importance of that kind of mindset. And so, I think it's easy to see. Especially for young leaders as they take on more responsibility, they have this feeling of like, leading is about telling people what to do, right, or managing people, that kind of thing, and certainly, there's an element of you need to have some deck plate leadership. You got to be able to make calls on the floor, that kind of thing. But really, at the heart of it is like servant leadership is the right model. Where hey, as the leader, as the person responsible. Yes, I take responsibility, but I'm here to help support and see your success. And so that mindset is huge. And so, that's something that, yes, is part of our mission to develop servant leaders, but we've gone on a journey over these last 8 years to even keep refining and getting clear on defining what is a servant leader. And so Chick-fil-A, Mark Miller is an incredible author that I think has codified a lot of what that means, what servant leadership within the Chick-fil-A culture looks like, and that's public. Anybody can access those resources. Definitely encourage you to go check those out, because I think just we all get better, when we're in environments where leaders are not there to consume or to take authority and power, but there to help support and serve and see the success of those that they lead.
That's awesome. So to our listeners and who wants to experience what Ryan just talked about, the principles of business, if you want to see that in action, please visit the Chick-fil-A in Flemington, because you will not only find extraordinary food, the taste, but the service is, because I've been there multiple times, and the
hospitality.
The hospitality, and you actually come out smiling, which is pretty unique in that part of the industry. So thank you, Ryan, for briefing us on your success principles, and hopefully a lot of the listeners can learn out of it and become successful themselves. So
My
thanks
pleasure.
again.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. All right.
All right. So if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure that you like us on Facebook. We also have a page. It's called Conversion Chronicles on Facebook. Also on LinkedIn. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We have a website called Conversion Chronicle without the S.com. And you can subscribe to our newsletter, and we will send you the upcoming episodes via email. You can find our archived episodes on Spotify.
Yep.
Hopefully soon we will be on more platforms, but right now everything's on Spotify. And
do you want to talk about some of the upcoming
podcasts? Next episode 7 will be, we're kind of diving into the details of the strategic plan that we talked about in previous episodes. So we're going to be talking about the SWOT analysis and why it is crucial to your business's success.
So we're going to bucket those 10 principles that we talked about. We'll bucket them and speak a lot more in details, so that we can take those components out and make it actionable for everybody to listen in.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you for listening in today.
Thank you very much.
And see you in 2 weeks.